We will call the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting for Wednesday, January 20th, 2021 to order. Let the record show all commissioners are present. First item on our agenda this morning is the order of business. Mr. Josephson, is there any changes to the order of business? Excuse me. Yeah, Mr. Josephson, sorry.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. No, there is no change to the order of business.
Okay, hearing no changes, commissioners, any questions for Mr. Josephson? And now I'd look for a motion to approve.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Dukart. Any further discussion on the order of business? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Item 2 on our agenda this morning is the minutes from the November 18th, 2020 meeting. Has everybody had a chance to review, and is there any changes that we need to make?
Mr. Chairman, I'd move to approve the minutes as presented.
We have a motion to approve the minutes
I'll second.
with a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries on the minutes. I will move into our action items for today. Item 1 under Roman numeral 3 is appointing a new chair. I think this is an annual thing that we have to revote. Who do we want as the chair and the vice chair? So I don't know how we exactly do this again. Is this open it up for nominations and then we take a vote?
I nominate, did you open it?
Okay, they're open. Open.
I nominate Jason Frederick for the chair.
Any further nominations? Any further nominations? Okay, hearing none, we will close nominations. I guess that makes that simple. I don't know if we need to vote, and there's only one nomination, do we? All right, all those in favor of me remaining as chair, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Okay,
Chairman Friedrich, you probably at this time want to elect the vice chair.
yep, that's what I was gonna go.
So-
Okay, we will open up the nominating process for the vice chair. Previously, that's been Mr. Bollinger. Do I hear of any nominations?
Mr. Chair, I'd like to nominate Mr. Bullinger to continue as vice chair.
I'll second it.
Okay, any further nominations for the vice chair position? Any further nominations? Okay, we will close the nominating process, and we have one nomination for Mr. Bullinger to remain as the vice chair. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Okay, we will move on. Item 2 on our action items for today is a special use permit. This is to consider a request for a special use permit for the replacement of a 6,000-gallon on-site petroleum storage tank with an 18,000-gallon tank. The site is located at 11053 32nd Street Southwest, Northgate Industrial Site, Lot 10, Block 2, in the south half of Section 10, Township 140 North, Range 96 West, in the city of Dickinson, ETZ, Stark County, North Dakota. Mr. Josephson, you're going to introduce this for us?
Yes, thank you, Chairman Friedrich. Good morning, Commissioners. This is a request for a conditional special use permit. You got to remember, I'm over at the city. Special use permit to allow for an 18,000 gallon tank for B&B hot oil services. A number of years ago, it's a propane tank. They were approved for a 6,000 gallon tank. So this would be expansion. Staff recommends approval subject to conditions, and that's the item that's before you this morning.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Josephson. Commissioners have looked at the packet. I think looks like we've got neighbor approval, some letters in there. Looks like they've went through the checklist and have met all the requirements. Any further questions for Mr. Josephson? I don't see an applicant in the audience, so.
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Fuger is all aware of all the conditions and okay with them?
That, I'm not, I'm not privy to, sorry, I'm not privy to that. So I'm going to assume it, but I'm not privy. I couldn't answer that question for you.
Okay.
But it has been, I know that that typically the planning director works with the applicants on the conditions.
Does the inspection department do the inspections then?
Well, the fire, they would have to get a permit for this, okay? So they have to go through the building permit process, and then they also have to work with the state fire marshal, for this. So yes, they're gonna have to go through those inspections. And I believe that that's all mentioned in the staff recommendations, and I believe there's a condition in there that says they're
Yep.
gonna follow all applicable, government regulations.
Okay.
Okay.
I think as long as they're okay with there's nobody here to speak for them, as long as they're okay with the conditions and they get the proper permitting, I don't have any issue with it. Anyone else? Any other questions or concerns?
I move the City of Dickinson Planning and Zoning Commission recommend approval of the petition for a special use permit for B&B Hot Oil Services, subject to the conditions listed above, as meeting all the requirements of the City of Dickinson Municipal Code and also being in the interest of the public health, safety, and welfare.
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Dukart. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Commissioner Franchuk. Any further discussion? All right, hearing none. All those in favor of approving the special use permit, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. All right, motion carries. We will move on to our next favorite item. Item 3.
I was
Special-
shocked to see that coming.
Special use permit, this is for a special use permit to consider the request for a special use permit for the installation and operation of a cellular facility mounted on the existing structure located at 41st East Villard Street. The site is described as Lot 7 through 13, Block 4, Dickinson Town Site in the city of Dickinson, North Dakota. Mr. Josephson, do you want to give us the rundown?
Oh, I will try on this one. So, Commissioners, thank you, Chairman Friedrich. Good morning, Commissioner Steve Josephson. So this is a special use permit for a telecommunications antenna on top of the building that's commonly known as the Jordheim building. From what I've read and what I've been told, apparently this was this telecommunications tower had been placed on the site without a permit, so they're coming in for the special use permit, after the fact to legitimize this. I also understand that they, before the final approval of this, they're going to need to get a variance to a front yard, I believe it's to a front yard setback requirement. Also, going through the material, it looks like they're aware that they're going to have to do some cleanup on the site as part of this project, and there are conditions that cover that. And I know, Commissioners, you've been wanting this to come to you for action. Staff recommends approval subject to the conditions before you, and I'm here to answer any questions as best I can. Thank you.
And I think reading through this, from my understanding, they've got the variance. That
Yes.
went through the variance has been approved, I believe.
Okay.
Okay, so,
Good to know.
all right.
I think the date should be moved up, though. July 21st, that's, why can't we do like June 1?
Are we looking,
Good.
you're talking for,
Improvements to be completed, that's number 7, by July 21st.
Again, what I could say is this may have been a date that was negotiated with staff, where the other thing might have been knowing what North Dakota winters can be like, that giving them extra time to finish this off, may have been what's behind it. So all I can say is, in my experience, is sometimes it's better to give people the time to comply, without knowing everything in this case. Sometimes it's better to give them more time to comply with something than to give them less time and then get on them for non-compliance. But that's just, that's just my view on that.
Well, they've already had like 2 years.
So my question would be item 3 is the covering of the cable, and that, I mean, is that something they have to submit for approval? Or is it just something that they're gonna come up with and put up there?
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, Leonard Schwint, building official. I believe that would be something that they would submit to show what they're actually going to use. I'm not sure if the applicant are they calling in today, or I guess,
We can check. If there's anybody in here.
The conference is currently empty. You will hear silence or music on hold when connected.
Guess that answers that question.
and it is correct, they did get a variance for the antenna to exceed the square footage of the antennas in the front yard setback. And the conditions of covering the cables was discussed, and in the minutes of the Board of Adjustment, they said that they would cover those with a similar color material as the building.
Mr. Chairman,
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, yes.
do any of our building officials, have they been inside that building and traveled with these AT&T personnel or any of the contractors when they are up there? Are we going to have the final word on the covers, everything that we're requiring in these documents? Will there be somebody from the city with them?
Yes, the last time I was actually in that structure is when the current sign up there failed. That was the last time I was in the structure. I don't
And when
believe
was that?
No, I did not.
2 years ago.
Okay, so you haven't been up there since they installed these new towers?
Correct.
The new antennas?
And they're on the perimeter of the structure. Not sure if they actually have any on the roof currently. They're all along the side.
But there is some hardware, if you look at the diagrams, there is some hardware mounted in the central part of that roof. So do we inspect that?
Generally, we wouldn't inspect that, no. Unless it was
But
structural.
you will verify the compliance of the covers on the...
Absolutely. They still will have to apply for a building permit.
Okay.
I mean, my only concern is they're just gonna bend some brown metal and slap it up there. And that's gonna
And
need.
we have a sheet of metal, next 60-mile-an-hour winds, we have a sheet of metal
I
laying
mean,
on
that,
the lard.
I mean, that's my only concern is, I don't know, maybe nobody else has that concern, but I do. I mean, it's the first thing you see when you drive down Millard is that building, so.
We could make it a condition of the building permit based on this board's recommendation of what you'd like to see.
I think, I'm not sure that I'd even know what I'd like to see, but I'd like something at least presented before they go do it for staff, yeah, at least staff approval, you know. I think we can leave it in staff's hands to say this is gonna be adequate or not. I don't know if it needs to come back to the commission, but.
I mean, it does say in number 3, it says the box has to fit in with the architecture and style of the structure. A little bit, but it's also
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's my concern, yeah, so.
It's an old building.
Like I said, I'm okay with this, I mean, the only thing that would maybe, you know, with staff, with at least city approval or something on the item 3, but I think if it's conditioned, that's probably gonna have to happen anyway, so.
We'll add that in there.
And has anybody spoke to the developer, Mr. Jordan? Is he okay with the improvements we're asking him to make there? I mean, that building's been,
I have not had any conversations with Mr. Jordan.
They had a letter. They have a letter.
okay. You know when the last time we've been in that building,
A couple years ago.
as a city?
Not, as far as the fire department, I would think that they've probably been in there.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Schwinn. Any more questions for Mr. Schwinn?
Are you comfortable with the date, July 31st? Then you have to prove it, then it comes to us, and then we keep moving it down and down, you know.
Again, we're a working state, and we work around the weather. If we're waiting for weather to do some of these, I can see that, but I would like to see it moved up because like Mrs. Dukart stated, is this building has been in this state for a number of years.
I would like to see June 1 on here. We haven't even had a winter other than, the ground is frozen a little bit now.
All right, well, Mr. Josephson informed me that I forgot to open a public hearing on the last one, so we're gonna do this one and then we'll go back. So, sure, go ahead.
Unless it's specified in the conditions, a special use permit does apply to the, it stays with the ownership.
And then we do, what, an annual review on these use permits as a city?
Right. That's
Make
what-
sure they're
that's
still
what
in compliance.
The planning and zoning director does.
Okay.
In fact, I believe there is a condition in here, was it the previous one? But, yeah, there is an annual, the planning and zoning director does pull the list of of special uses to make sure they've been built and that they're compliant.
Okay. All right, with that, we will, since it is a special use permit, we will need to have a public hearing on this one. So we'll open the public hearing on the special use permit for the cellular tower on the top of the Jordan building. If anybody has any concerns, please step forward. I will open the phone call here.
There is currently one person in the conference.
Good morning.
Hi, good morning. Can you hear me?
Yep, who do I have with us?
All right, great. This is Joe Goldschlack. I'm calling from SAC Wireless. I'm sorry about the confusion earlier.
Oh.
Watching the live stream and I could hear you talking about our project and not able to speak up. So
Okay.
I'm here now.
All right, sounds good. We were just about to begin the public hearing, but I'll open it to any questions from commissioners to you, Mr. What was the last name?
It's Goldschlack.
Goldschlack?
You
Okay.
can just call me Joe.
Okay, Joe. Commissioners, did you have any questions for the applicant on this special use permit? One of the questions that came up in the discussion is, what kind of material are you guys looking at for the covering of the cabling?
Just metal, I believe, but if you have something that you prefer, we are flexible in that regard. The main goal is to make the city and the residents happy with how it looks, so we'll do whatever we can. Typically, though, it's just metal, like a metal enclosure that's designed by a stealthing professional to hide cables and wires, and they can paint them any color. And that's typically what we use and what we were planning to use in this case, unless the city would prefer something else, then that's fine as well.
Yeah, I think we're probably okay with that as long as you submit that, the planning and zoning director or the building official, so for approval, I think we're okay with that.
Certainly.
Everybody?
That's not a problem at all. The one thing that has come up, just minor issue with that is, we could provide spec sheets with, what the, enclosure would look like and dimensions and everything like that. But I understand that because it's an aesthetic thing, I just don't want to get into a situation where we're going back and forth saying, it looks good on paper, but I don't know what it'll look like on the roof, because really putting it into construction drawings is more for dimensions and not style. So we can work together on what specifically we'll need to submit, but we will definitely put that in front of the city before moving forward.
Okay, thank you, that sounds good.
I have one question for you, Mr. Bolshlak. Is there any reason that you have to go out to July 21st to get this done?
No, the main reason for the delay is honestly just because we need to have all of the required permits to move forward. And I understand it's a complicated procedure, especially with the history that's gone on here, but we just wanted to make sure that there's enough of a cushion in the time period so that we can stay on schedule.
Okay, it's only January
But,
20th, so that's like 7 months out.
I
For 6
understand
months.
that, but we submitted this application initially in February of last year, I believe. So, and there's also a variance, an encroachment permit, and a handful of other, and we have to coordinate with subcontractors, get the cable box approved. There's a number of steps before we can actually mobilize and start working. We would love to work as fast as possible to get through those, but I understand there's a review purpose and that we'll need to get everything approved first. But that's the reason for the timing. If we can do it sooner, we're absolutely willing to do it sooner.
If I may, commissioners, if you do
We'll do it
decide,
tomorrow if you let us.
if you do decide to change
Might
that
slide
date,
off the roof tomorrow.
if you do decide to change that date to an earlier date, if you can amend the condition to that date, but then also put something in that staff could grant them like a month-to-month extension based upon whatever the applicant submits. So you could always put that option in there, because say something does happen and they come to that June 1st date and they can't complete it, but it's a reasonable circumstance, then staff could say, okay, we'll give you one more month, and just put that in the conditions so it doesn't have to come back here, or the city won't have to take any action against them. Because I believe what we want to see is that they comply and that they get this, done. So that's just a suggestion from staff.
Mr. Goldschlack, the owner of the building is all on board with this? I mean, we haven't seen him at any of these meetings other than a note in here saying that he is. I just want to make sure.
Yes, we've been in frequent contact with the Georgians. I know they signed the application and the letter in the application materials, but if you need anything further on that, we can definitely provide
Okay,
more.
all right. Did you have anything else, Mr. Goldschlack?
I guess, just in regarding the construction dates, one thing I can offer is that I know that when we get closer to construction starting, our forecasts are more and more accurate, for understandably, because when you need to be ready to build something in a week, we know that 1 week from now we will be building it. But when we're out a few months like this, and there's a number of things that can come up, it's always more difficult to predict when construction can actually begin, because you never know what could happen, especially in today's climate. And so what I can say is we'll we're happy to set up some type of system to say this is when we're expecting to be able to start construction, and periodically report those dates and let you know if any changes occur and why any dates had to be pushed out or pulled in. We're happy to work with you guys as much as we're able to.
Okay.
So
All right.
if that helps, then
Yes, thank,
there's that.
all right, thank you. Any other questions from the applicant?
Well, the way it's stated now, it's no later than July 21st, so that means that's it. And then Mr. Josephson was saying June 1, but then month to month. What's the difference if they have a deadline versus give them extension? So we might as well just stay with the 21st, and it has to be done by then.
Okay, I'm good with that.
That we're fully on board with that, but then if
Can't be any ifs here.
what if we go back and forth on this cable box approval and that takes an extra month or two? That's what I'm concerned about. Is it if you're putting a deadline on a date that it has to start by? You know, like I said, if we had approval to start next week, we would. We have to go. I just want to make sure that we're not creating a situation where we reach that date and realize that
Well, if you get your drawings into the building department in the next couple weeks, I would imagine you'll have a quick approval.
Right, and I'm sorry,
fine with that.
and commissioners in
I'm
the
sure that will occur.
in the DC zoning district, the zoning administrator does have the administrative,
And I was told-
administrative ability to approve that. Doesn't have to come back in front of a advisory or elected body.
And I was told that the variance was approved, so that's one step closer.
Yes, it was.
Okay.
Okay, any other questions for the applicant? All right, since this is a public hearing, one more time, I'll open this up. Anybody in the audience or on the phone have any other concerns or questions regarding this application? Anyone in the audience or on the phone, any further questions or concerns about this app? All right, seeing none, we will close the public hearing on this. Commissioners, what are your wishes?
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion. I move the City of Dickinson Planning and Zoning Commission recommend approval of the petition for a special use permit for the SAC wireless AT&T for the installation of telecommunications equipment at 41 East Lark Street, subject to the conditions listed above, as meeting all the requirements and intent of the Dickinson Municipal Code, and also being in the interest of public health, safety, and welfare.
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Karski. Do we have a second? Second by Mr. Bush. Any further discussion regarding this application? Hearing none, we'll go to the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Goldschlack.
Thank you very much.
Yep, bye-bye. All right, well, we have to reverse one item here since I forgot to open public hearing on the item 2. So we'll go back and open up a public hearing on the special use permit for the fuel tank for B&B Hot Oil Services. So if there's anybody in the audience, and I will call back in or on the phone.
There is currently one person in the conference.
Anybody in the audience or on the phone that has any concerns about the B&B Hot Oil Service tank? Do we have anybody on there? Hello? Anybody on the phone or in the audience about the B&B Hot Oil Service special use permit? Okay, hearing none, we will close the public hearing. Do we need to go back and take another vote on this? I would look for that, a motion to affirm or vote on that, since there was no concerns in the public hearing.
I'll make that motion to
Okay.
affirm.
Motion by Shirley, do we have a second?
Second.
Portnoy? All those in favor of affirming our previous vote, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Sorry about that, everyone. All right, looking at our agenda items, that is the end of our action stuff for this morning. We will move on to item 4, our work session non-action items, and we have an underground mining overlay district update from Mr. Josephson.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Commissioners, a number of months ago, we had brought a zoning code amendment to you that would establish an underground mining overlay district. It's in the area commonly known as the Lehigh area, where there were a number of underground mines that were there. This was a comprehensive plan policy. This following a comprehensive plan policy, the idea was to try to prevent people from building structures habitable structures over underground mines and then experience subsidence later on. And that has happened. There was a similar ordinance to this that had been approved in Beulah, North Dakota. There were some concerns that were raised by the Public Works Department as to how this would impact any plans they might have to expand their landfill in the area, and they had a site plan that this might affect some of the buildings that they were thinking of if they ever did expand the landfill. Public Works did provide a copy of the Wank study that was done a number of years ago that looked at the area and showed where they were going to put some proposed structures. Staff went over that. They did find that we did look at it. It looked like in the proposed site plan that some of the facilities they were planning in the area would not be over areas that the state had identified as an underground mine. And actually, there were a number of places in the Wank study where they did talk about sinkholes occurring and how the city did need to address subsidence, at some point or another. But one of the things it did was it gave us an opportunity to go back and look at the ordinance. The idea behind the ordinance was not to totally discourage construction in that area of anything other than an agricultural building, but that if anyone was to come in and build a building in that area, to come in with some proof showing that they are not building over a place where there would be subsidence. So staff went back and looked at the ordinance and proposed a change to this proposed ordinance that said that unless the developer can demonstrate that no subsidence hazards are present on site as outlined in this ordinance, the construction, alteration, or enlargement of non-agricultural structures over an abandoned mine shall be prohibited. So it gives that was supposed to be the intent of it. Looking back at it, it wasn't really clear. So we bringing this back and asking for direction. This does need to go back for a public hearing in front of the Planning and Zoning Commission. And I'm here to answer any questions you might have about this.
So after meeting with staff and Public Works, they're okay with the changes?
Well, last week we sent this to them, and we've not heard anything back. And we asked for their comments and concerns. We've not heard anything back from Public Works.
Is this something that goes through site plan when we look at stuff like this?
Not currently it would, but if somebody came in for a permit in that area, and whether they will, that's largely an agricultural area. But currently, as far as I know, that's not something that would be considered in the site planning process.
I just wonder, because that brings all the departments together to review something like this and make their comments, so it seems like a logical place.
So for the ordinance, we could bring that in front of site planning to get their comments for this. This is just direction as to whether to go forward you know, to go forward with this. As I said, this had been the Planning and Zoning Commission before with a recommendation of approval, and pulled it at the city commission meeting to get the input from Public Works.
I mean, for me, I would like to see before this comes back for a public hearing,
Okay,
a sign off by all the departments that, I mean, they're all on the same page here. 'Cause that's what happened at the commission meeting. We had planning wanting to pass this that night, and we had one other department saying they've never seen it before. And they had concerns about it. I don't want that to, I mean, everybody should be on the same page before it comes here.
okay. If that's the direction, you know, then, you know, we can bring this, the planning and zoning will bring this to site planning and make sure that they all see this.
Commissioners, anybody else have any concerns or questions? I mean, I think the ordinance is probably something that needs to be there, you know, with the, you know, the mining issues we have on that end of town, but, you know, I just want to make sure we get it right before we pass something and then have to change it. So,
Okay, if that's your direction, then, if that's the direction of the Planning and Zoning Commission, then that's what staff will do.
everybody in
I think
concurrence with that, or?
Makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone. All right. The next item would be our item 5, items that are not on the agenda. Is there any commissioner that has any items that is not on the agenda they'd like to bring up at this time?
I just have a question.
No
I know
question. I'm just-
you're the new chair, answer. Anyway, for Highway 22, I know that's the Department of Transportation's responsibility, right? Do we work with them? I want to just bring up, on Highway 22, where we go into the back for the North Dakota Highway Patrol office, we have, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 businesses that have to enter in that same entrance. And then across 22 is coming out, all the Prairie Hills Mall, Cashwise. You can sit there for a long time trying to get out of that approach. Is there any way we could have the west side, or could we talk to the highway department and tell them to put right lane must stay in right turn people must stay in right lane? Because they're waiting to come across and we're waiting to go to the left. Or either there's got to be something done there before somebody has a head-on collision. There's only one way for all 7 of us. One, two, it's because it's Southwest District Health, North Dakota Highway Department, Dunn Brothers, Home and Land, Taco Bell's, Liberty Tax, and now Mason's Chiropractic. There's only one way to get in there. And you have to come off of 22. And then there's all these come in this direction from across. And then naturally from 22 coming to make a left there or right there. And it's really becoming an issue. It wasn't during COVID because there wasn't that much traffic, but now you can tell, again, with school on and
Retta?
We can share your comments with the DOT, but other than that, I'm not sure how they will move forward. A lot of times they just follow their MUTCD standards, and if it doesn't warrant the standard, then the answer is usually no. I know we've had conversations, say like with the 8th Street on the south side looking for signals. If it doesn't warrant it, our answer is no. So it's nice to have our comments on their radar though. So I think we can share that with them and see if we get somewhere.
or would it be more effective if I just called them and told them? Because the highway department has to know. They have a yield sign. They know that they have to wait, and the other people coming from Taco Bell's, when they come out, they have a stop sign, but a lot of times they do not stop. And some of us coming off of 22, you can only slow down so much to turn, even at 10 miles an hour. And if you don't get out of the way, somebody's gonna rear end you from, because they don't do the 25. They start the minute they see the 40-mile-an-hour sign, everybody's speeding up already.
I think we could both contact
Okay,
them.
let's do that. And I think I'm gonna have all the businesses call in too.
It'd be good for them to take a look at it. If, you know, you're having concerns about it, it's always good for them to review it.
Thank you.
Anyone else have any items they'd like to discuss that were not on the agenda? Okay, hearing none, we'll move on to item 6. Public issues of city concern not on the agenda. Calling one more time here.
The conference is currently empty. We'll hear silence or music on hold when connected.
Anyone in the public or on the telephone that has any public issues of city concern that was not on our agenda that they'd like to discuss? Any items not on the agenda? Seeing or hearing none, we will close that item and go on to item 7 and look for a motion to adjourn.
Mr. Chair, I'll make that motion to adjourn.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned. Thanks, everyone.